Let's give a warm welcome to Jill Nelson.
Thank you, Steve. Very nice to be here. So as Steve mentioned, I am Jill Nelson. I'm the CEO and founder of Ruby Receptionists. So when Paul asked me to speak at his upcoming Digital User Experience Conference, I was, of course, flattered, but looked at him a bit confused. Paul, I said, I run a virtual receptionist company. We talk on the phone. My digital experience is really limited to frequent visits to Nordstrom.com. You know, what could I possibly offer your audience? Well, he quickly pointed out that this was not an ordinary digital user experience conference. This was Delight 2012. And what this conference aims to do is to find better ways to connect with visitors, customers, users, and really reach them on a personal level. Well, as soon as he said that, of course, I was all in, and after hearing Dave speak this morning, I realized that it really is relevant because at Ruby, our mission is to perpetuate that human connection in today's ever-increasingly technology-focused virtual world. So, I probably could use a clicker. Over there. Excellent. So, what I want to do today is to share with you what we're doing inside Ruby. What's that? Excellent. See, we'll be talking in fun. We're not really into technology here. Need a little help with just about all of it. So what I want to share with you today is our 6-step service model and the driving forces behind it that we've used to create an entire organization that's driven to deliver these personal connections that we're doing throughout the organization with the idea that you guys can be inspired by this and take this home and use it in your own practice. So, because this model for us, it's been pretty instrumental in creating some pretty amazing results. And we believe that it is trainable, it's repeatable, it's scalable, it can be used in just about any business, and the results we're talking about are pretty bottom line specific. And for example, for the last 5 years, we've been on Portland's Business Journal's fastest growing companies list. We just got our Lighthouse Award for that distinction. We've done that while reducing marketing expenses 78% as a percentage of sales because we have now our customers doing our marketing for us. And an indicator that I think is crucial in all of this success is that in an industry where turnover is typically well over 100%, we're experiencing turnover about 1/5 of that. We actually have employees that have been known to buy presents for our customers over their weekend and even visit them out of state on their own personal vacation. So the epiphany for us too is that this concept of surprise and delight and what we at Ruby call practicing wowism, it's really not just a tagline, it's a bottom line concept. So today I'll take you through the service pyramid. Really the pyramid itself, it was built around that concept of another famous pyramid. I don't know if any of you took Psych 101, but how many of you have heard the Maslow's hierarchy of needs? A big show of hands. The idea is that there's these needs, and they all have to be met, but you really can't be working at the top if you haven't fulfilled the bottom. So for us, for example, we can't be sending a note card to a client congratulating them on the graduation of their son's college career, if, we're not getting their name right. So that's how the pyramid works. But really it was a journey for us to get there. And I'd like to share that with you. When we started Ruby Receptionists, we actually weren't even called Ruby. We were WorkSource Inc. And we were about making businesses efficient. So really, when we focused on our business, we were pretty much focusing right in here. And things went along for the first year, and they were fine. But we're here at Delight 2012, so I'm guessing like the rest of you, the way I feel about fine is a 4-letter word. But during that time, we actually heard from our customers, and they liked us, and that was pretty cool. We got to hear from them, but they were not telling us, how efficient we were making them. What they were telling us is, oh my gosh, your receptionists, they're so nice. And we heard from them that, oh my gosh, I have such peace of mind. I can focus on my business because I know your receptionists care so much that when that phone rings, they will do whatever they possibly can to help me and my business and that caller. And we actually heard from clients that said we got them business simply because our receptionists were so nice. That the caller said, hey, you're the first company I called that actually answered the phone and talked to somebody friendly. I'm hiring you. Because that personal connection was that important. So after hearing that enough times, the brick hit us on the head and we realized we're not about being efficient. We are about making other people's day by making that personal connection. And as soon as we had that aha moment, the brand Worksource Inc. was no longer appropriate, and we became the more personal Ruby receptionist. And we actually stopped hiring people based on those years and years and years of receptionist experience that were in our ads. And our ads became something more like, hey, if making other people's day makes your day, we want to hear from you. Because that leads us to driving force. Number one in the business is that really, you got to know what you stand for. And once you figure what that is, just like Dave was talking about, that you find customers that stand for the same thing. Well, at Ruby, we surrounded ourselves with employees, with staff members who stand for the same thing, that believe passionately that making other people's day really can change the world. They come to work every day feeling like, oh gosh, I don't have to take 250 calls per day. I have 250 opportunities to connect with someone. So that becomes a really powerful force behind the company to be able to deliver that mission. We've got now 99 today employees that are passionate about creating those connections. So once we really did understand that what our business needed to focus on was to foster happiness and create experiences, and so that came naturally to everybody in a sense. Except for one of the things you discover that if you hire people based on attitude and values rather than experience, you cannot simultaneously expect those employees to come in and know exactly what to do in every situation. And when you know what it is you stand for and what is important, that is when you really want to hone in on those training and systems around those things that are important. So we created training on all kinds of ways to foster happiness. We created training on how to make an angry person happy. We created training on how to make a hard of hearing person happy. We created training on how to make somebody happy even when we knew we couldn't give them what they wanted. And then we created systems. Systems were so important to us because once, again, we figured out what we stood for and what our brand was. We wanted to make sure our brand was consistent across every single touch point. We've heard that today. Well, for us, it's not just the telephone. It is the web, but it's also the invoice. It's every possible way someone might interact with us. And our brand is very specific. Our version of professional and delighting is really about being charming. It's about friendly and professional. It's casual, but it's still very, very caring. So we work to identify every touch point, but sometimes they don't always come so naturally. I will share a story with you. It's a bit embarrassing because it's an obvious touch point, and I think we were in year 5 of our business before we recognized it. And so we're receptionists. We're amazing receptionists, in fact. If you were to call us, you would feel like you were getting a hug over the phone. Really. We're amazing receptionists on the phone. But if you were to walk in our front door, you would feel like you were a ghost. Literally, you would walk in and employees would be headed out to their break and just walk on by our visitor. We never gave our employees a framework of expectation or systems of what to do when somebody came to visit us in real live person. But out of that, we created our greet, seat, and treat method, because even those little instances, like someone walking through the door, can have a system that creates a brand experience. And then we created other systems like our email correspondence standards, simple things like email. Every email that goes out our door, whether it's to a customer or vendor or even a fellow employee, starts with a friendly salutation and ends with a professional greeting. And tools that we use to do our job, such as spelling verification. We were using the traditional military Alpha, Bravo, Charlie spelling methodology, and that's not Ruby. But out of that, created our own alphabet. So is that A as in absolutely, or B as in brilliant? So there's really all kinds of opportunities to create systems out of every single touch point. So, surprise, driving force number 2 for us is to create systems and training for a consistent brand experience across every touch point. So that was, we talked about we were in year 5 and we really got that going. So now our business model had amazing employees, and we really had things nailed down to get about 2/3 away up this pyramid. But our employees, who are these natural caregivers, natural people who just were inspired to make other people's day, were doing all kinds of personal things on their own, their own ideas, and they were really operating up in this upper tier. And that was great, except for we were growing really, really rapidly, going from 4 employees to 99 and I guess that was a 9-year span, but it's really started to clip the last couple of years. And so more and more of our employees were newer. They were in their first 6 months or their first year, and fewer of our employees had the experience of that culture of being around us for so long to have those ideas. So we sort of felt threatened, like how are we going to protect this ability to make these personal, meaningful connections and give people what they don't even know? How do you create training around that? So we did what we do whenever we have a problem we can't solve. We ask our employees. So it was about, I guess it was not this summer, but a summer ago, I actually met with every employee in the organization. It took me about 2 months. We met in small groups. I asked them, what kinds of things are you guys doing up here that we can bring into our organization, that we can train, and how can we train that? How can you give instructions to give somebody what they don't know what they want? And what they came up with was essentially 3 things that if we could do for our employees, everybody, even on day 1, could be operating up at that top level. And those things were to incent, inspire, and to empower. And I think the best way to explain how those things work is to tell you a couple of stories. So I do have a couple of stories to share with you. The first one is about Whitney the receptionist. Now, Whitney was doing what she normally does. She's taking her 250 calls, 250 opportunities, and she happens to take a call for a client who isn't available to have the call transferred to him. So she takes a message. And that message is from an insurance company. And the insurance company is saying, hey, I understand, I'm returning a call from your client. Your client was in a car accident, just following up on the claim. So she takes that message, includes in the message like, hey, I hope everything's okay. Life seems to go on as normal. Well, a couple of days later, that client received in the mail a note card from, of course, Whitney, the receptionist, saying, hi, Philip. I took a call yesterday from an insurance company about an auto accident. I hope everyone is okay and no one was injured. I thought you could use this emergency kit. And she had sent him this 50-piece car emergency preparedness kit to handle just about, anything that might come his way. And he was, of course, just blown away that his receptionist company would send him such a gift after taking this message. So thanked us profusely and was blown away. But then a couple days go by, and Philip, who's an attorney, he participates in a popular listserv amongst attorneys. Attorneys like to talk to each other a lot. And on this listserv, somebody was asking for a virtual receptionist recommendation, and all kinds of people were already pitching in, talking about how great Ruby was and how we cared about their clients and the callers and we were nice. But Philip felt compelled not only to recommend us, but he's like, I gotta tell you this story. It's just so amazing. This is what happened. And it turns out that car accident was a deer who had decided to commit suicide in front of Philip's car. The deer was not okay, but everyone else was. So, of course, the people on the listserv were impressed, and we got a client out of that recommendation. But the story didn't end there. A couple days later, a visitor to that site is the author of a popular blog called InspiredLawyer.com. And they felt compelled to write an entire post about Ruby Receptionists, not just how useful we can be to attorneys, but the second part of it told the story of Philip and the emergency preparedness kit and how we can be an inspiration to lawyer practices everywhere. So, pretty big impact from doing that. But now, Whitney the receptionist, when she did this, she was in her first several weeks of employment at Ruby Receptionists. So how did she know to do this, and how did this all transpire? She was still in our training program. Well, she had been incented because when she started on day one, she knew that the criteria, the way we evaluate people, really isn't about productivity. It's about how well you connect, not just with customers, but even fellow employees. We also happen to be running a game, an incentive campaign that encouraged our receptionists to find ways to connect with our clients. She had been inspired because one of the things we do at Ruby is we share stories. We share stories all day long. Stories come to the entire company via email. We have stories in digital photo frames up in our lobby. There's stories posted all over our break room. The best stories get told at staff meetings with cash prizes. So she had seen all these crazy things that other receptionists do, so she knew to keep her mind on. And we actually put these stories together and try to come up with themes, and there's a handout that you guys have in your book today. There's 10 things to listen for from clients and what you can do to connect when you hear those things. Our social media expert is amazing at using these tools on Twitter. She's listened for clients that are welcoming a new employee, and she's proactively contacting our client services department so that we can reach out to them to get their information. She even saw a client one day wishing they had flowers on their desk, and she was able to have the florist show up 2 hours later with flowers. But so Whitney had been inspired. And she had been empowered because one of the things we do at Ruby, amongst many, is we have a prepaid Amazon account that all employees have access to, that they can purchase anything they want for any client, for any amount, at any time, no questions asked. All they have to do is share the story, and we have a little tool to make sure that the same client hasn't received something in the last 6 months. So Whitney had been incented, and she'd been inspired, and she'd been empowered, and that led to a brand new employee doing something pretty special that made a pretty big impact. I have one other story to tell, and this one is about a different end of the spectrum, Kendra. Kendra has been at Ruby for years, and she's really an inspiration to everybody. She takes customer experience to a whole new level. So when Tim Miles, our new client Tim Miles, signed up for service, he was already bowled over, and they were joking back and forth. And she said, well, you're all ready to go. Is there anything else I can get you? And he joked, how about a puppy? So, of course, you can imagine, guess what showed up 2 days later? Surprise! It's Puppy from Kendra and the Ruby team. So, it's fun, a little $8 puppy, something fun to break up the day. But, where this photo came from? It came from a blog post by Tim Miles called Ruby, the New Woman in My Life. And in this blog post, he tells the story, and come to find out, he's just released an ebook called Inspiring Service. And in this blog post, he talks how this story will be the lead in his version 2 of his ebook. doesn't end there. Come to find out, Tim Miles actually travels around the country talking to sold-out rooms of small business owners about how they can improve their marketing by improving their customer experience. And now 10 to 15 minutes of every one of those presentations talks about Ruby Receptionists. Just recently, one of the clients that came our way through Tim Miles tweeted to his followers how great we were and how every small business should use Ruby Receptionists to his 280,000 followers. So we love what we do. We would do it because that is what we're driven to do, but we firmly believe that it is, it's a bottom line concept. So when you have your entire organization working on the service pyramid and you use these three driving forces to inspire an entire workforce to do that, you really can get something that's powerful and it's scalable and really sustainable. So that's Ruby, that's what we're doing. I don't know if we have any time for questions, but there is a handout. I've got a 5-minute receptionist makeover for you all, the 10 ways to connect with clients, and the service pyramid is also in your handout. Thank you so much.